The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Gil Allouche. Gil is the CEO at Metadata.io. Gil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, JP. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Gil, let's start with yourself, please. Can you give us an overview of your background and your journey in technology, from where you got started to what's led you to where you are today?
Oh man, technology, that's going to take us way back. I think my dad bought me an XT computer when I was like 9 years old. We didn't have everything, but my dad and my parents definitely invested in buying us a computer early on when it was expensive and slow. And I fell in love. I spent years studying how to, instead of play, build games. And then, got into programming and hacking in my teens. Spent the remainder of the years building software and in AI, robotics, and in fintech. And then I moved to the United States to do my MBA and understand the business side of things, where I spent about 8 years as a head of marketing for a few enterprise software. And those 8 years gave me the motivation and the inspiration to start Metadata, which is a marketing technology software leveraging AI.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for the background. I appreciate you sharing. Obviously, it's been an interest of yours since childhood, but you talked about the decision to come to the US to get your MBA for the business side, and then your work with previous enterprise software companies has led to you launching Metadata. So you touched on it briefly there, but can you give us a bit more information about Metadata as a business, who you are, what you do, and then help us visualize the role that AI and data and analytics plays on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. So when I finished my MBA, I had to pay for it. And so I went to start to find myself a job. There were a few different opportunities, but what got me excited is a small startup called Spotfire right there in Boston. It was an enterprise software startup. And me coming into a marketing role, well, two things. First of all, I used to do many things and I would get bored doing just kind of product marketing, which is the job I got. And my boss gave me this business called Silver Spotfire, the cloud version of the flagship product of that business. And he told me, look, this product is not doing really well. It's only grossing about $50K a year. We're about to shut it down. You're a green MBA. Why don't you try to do something out of it? I'm not giving you extra time or budget, but if you make something out of it, that'll be cool. And if you don't, we kind of expect you to not be able to do anything with it. So very low risk. And that was my first experience really running a P&L of a business and doing marketing for a business, for a product in the cloud. We were able to take that product into almost $2 million in ARR within less than 2 years. And that process, that experience changed me. The other part was that I was a software engineer at the end of the day. Yeah, I had 2 years of experience as an MBA, but that doesn't really add to my business acumen in terms of experience. And so I had no idea how to run marketing and how to come up with cool strategies and ideas and intuition, so on and so forth. And so instead of trying to come up with kind of a madman ideas, which just didn't come, what instead came is the ability to build a piece of software that ran marketing for me. And so I ended up relying on my software engineering skills to actually execute marketing for my company, which ended up really working really well. I used both data and AI and experimentation, which we can talk about in a moment. And that led me to success at that company and in two startups afterwards. 3 got acquired, and a lot of the execution that I ended up doing as a marketer really was relying on my ability as a software engineer to create this experimentation framework to run those campaigns.
So you've touched on it, so let's go straight into it. You talked about the AI experimentation, and obviously that's something that you're using now at Metadata on a daily basis. Help us visualize what it's like behind the scenes. If we were members of your AI and data team, what is it like day to day? What does a typical project lifecycle look like, and where does the AI experimentation fit in?
Yeah, so we have different kinds of AI and data in the platform. It took us years, by the way, to build it. I would say it's one of the more, I sometimes joke and call it a little monster because it's a fairly heavy technology that includes two main components. The first one is the data part, and we ingested and created this database that includes within it all the major data sources for B2B marketing. So imagine when you're trying to do marketing in a B2B form, in a B2B context, you're not like Coca-Cola where you spray and pray and you kind of market to everyone and hope that a big piece of the population is going to think, oh, Coca-Cola is what I need right now. When you're in B2B, there is only a discrete universe of companies that can and want to buy your product and services. And within those companies, there's only a certain amount of people who are interested in your product. So it's not like you're going after all companies, and definitely you're not going after all people within those companies. So just doing that limits and laser focuses your efforts. So you're not spending a minute of your time or $1 of your budget on the wrong company or the wrong person. That's the data part that we started with at Metadata, just to make sure that whatever marketing you are doing, do it against the right companies and the right people within those companies. There are huge benefits and gains. The second part in marketing is you don't know what is going to work. You're running campaigns against people within companies, and it may take them 6 months to buy your product, because in a B2B sales cycle, it's a complex sales cycle. There are salespeople involved, and CISO, and security people, and legal, and finance, and procurement. It's not just like you're swiping your credit card and buying a $50 jeans or etc. Therefore, you need a system that is truly connected to the entire life cycle from the moment someone sees your ad to the moment that they send the $200,000 signed contract. And you want to optimize towards that outcome. And so there's a lot of AI, decision tree, machine learning involved in that process. Just to give you an example, when you connect your Salesforce, for example, to Metadata, Metadata will quickly go back into the deals that you the deals that you were successfully closed in the past year or 2 years, you can determine, and it will identify the types of companies, the technologies that they have, the buyer intent signals that they look into, and the personas that you sell to, and it will start using those insights as a means to an end to actually go and target new customers. This is just one example that we use when you connect your Salesforce.
Since launching Metadata, you've had a lot of success, and there's some great anecdotal evidence from customer journeys and the impact. But when you're speaking to candidates, particularly on the technology side, whether it be data engineers or data scientists, what was it that you told these people early on to get them interested in the mission at Metadata that got them to join you guys over some of the other great opportunities available?
That's a great question, because as an engineer, yeah, you definitely want to work on cutting edge. When I recruited my first engineer, who is today our VP of engineering, Emily Hong, I remember telling her, and I think I still do, that Metadata is using AI in ways that were never used before. Fundamentally, our system is essentially augmenting humans doing work, and sometimes replacing humans doing technical, repetitive, mundane work. And it's innovative because usually AI, or at least historically, especially in our space, but in many different segments, AI analyzes data and then gives you insights. It tells you what you should be doing better, smarter, faster. What AI doesn't solve for, at least in most cases, is the human becoming the bottleneck. Meaning, if you're a marketer and you have 1,000 things you could be doing, you're probably going to do 20 of them or 15, because you only have so many hours in the day, and your expertise out of the 1,000 things you could do, you could probably do only so many really well. What Metadata does is, of course, it analyzes data and comes up with the right insights, even actionable insights. But the beauty in Metadata is that it jumps over that hurdle, that bottleneck, and actually goes and executes the tasks it thinks should be done, versus giving the human yet another task to spend time on. And so that's the big innovation in Metadata, where our system actually takes the action instead of the human, letting the human marketer spend more time on value add tasks, like strategic tasks, like content, creative tasks, and not having to worry ever again about logging into Google AdWords or enriching data or moving CSV files from here to here or doing attribution work or executing campaigns on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those channels they can really move back to add on and value add tasks. And that is a true innovation of metadata, that you're building an actual piece of software that automates and takes away all the weight from the shoulders of the human versus just giving them more insights. And I think that is where our innovation really comes to light.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
You launched Metadata in 2015, so it's already been quite a journey over the past 7 or so years. When you start to look ahead at what the next chapter holds for Metadata with the ever-changing landscape of automation and marketing, what are some of the things that as upcoming trends, and for Metadata specifically, what are you most excited about over the next few years?
For Metadata, look, in terms of the trends, one of the things that I'm happy about is that it's becoming more and more common and acceptable for AI to do things for humans. If in the past, and of course it's still a change that has to happen and we have to get comfortable with it, but it's already happening at such speed in so many domains. Like for example, us humans being comfortable with letting a piece of technology drive us from point A to point B and stop where it needs to stop and alert you and change the direction and the speed and maybe the path, so on and so forth. That's magic, and that's music to my ears, because that means that marketers will feel comfortable letting a piece of software like Metadata run their marketing for them. At least the things that are already known, things that we have in institutional knowledge, the playbooks, the patterns that are already recognized as best practices, so on and so forth. That's the trend that I'm very excited about, because guess what? It's still hard sometimes for people, especially people who are good at their job, to hand off the tasks that are historically so comfortable doing, even though it's hard and they don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and change 100 UTM tags. They're still accustomed to it, and that's comfort zone. And having humans move out of their comfort zone and letting AI and computers do what computers and AI do best instead of humans, that's already a great change that I see happening. For Metadata specifically, I know it sounds like a cliche, but we're already only at the beginning of the way. It took us a few years to build a piece of software and patents. We have 5 patents for our technology. We have a lot more to innovate there. We just built the fundamental to see if it works. We didn't really know. We had a piece of technology and a thesis, and we were hoping it's working, but it's working. Now that it's working, we're at the very early visionaries path in the more adoption curve. And so there is a lot more coming in terms of automation. The AI has so much more scope to take over. Software is becoming a lot more reliant on API and automation. And so we have so much more opportunity to connect and automate those pieces of software and those workflows. So from a product perspective, and I'm a product person, so I get extremely excited about that. We have so much more to do and create so much more value for our customers, create so much more automation to the place where B2B marketing can really be like a pleasure, a delight to do, and without a lot of complexity and cumbersomeness. And so I am very excited about the years ahead, because the speed of innovation increases because we already have that foundation that we built in the last 5-6 years.
Final question from me then, Gil, staying on the topic of growth at Metadata, but specifically focused around what opportunities there are going to be for people to come on board and join you on this mission. When you look at the next 1 to 2 years, what sort of hires are you going to need to make to continue to support the growth of the business as a whole within the AI team? And when you're speaking to the candidates, what are you telling them now about the environment, the culture, and the work that you're doing to get them excited about Metadata as a potential place to work?
Yeah, look, a startup shrinks years, sometimes 10, sometimes 5, into 1 year. Really, the ratio is rough, and it's good, because that's the whole idea in a startup. You take big risks and you try to really accelerate reality. That means it's going to be tough. You're going to be outside of your comfort zone vast majority of the time. Even when you're good, 1 year, you have to completely innovate the next year. You're always going to continue to grow. At least in Metadata, growth mindset is the number 1 requirement. You cannot stay complacent and just be in your area of comfort for a long time. And so what I tell candidates who come in is, first of all, you're going to work on cutting edge of technology. You may be working on marketing software, but you're working on Our software is not like any other software in the MarTech space, where it's more like a real-time game. There is a clock running, there is a bot that runs over 1 million actions a day, like 100 agencies would, and you're touching all the latest and greatest technologies, and also we're working with the best brands out there. All the best, most modern brands and cutting-edge brands you can imagine. All those B2B brands are working with us. And so that's part one that is exciting. The second one is that growth path. And so whether you want to become more in the business side, so we have someone who more in the technical part, and they moved more into the pre-sales, into the demo area. They were more commercial and wanted to play in that area. So after 2 years, they moved there. Or vice versa. We just have someone moving from the business side into the product side because they spent so many years in the commercial. They have so much goodness they can bring back into the product. They just moved into a senior role in the product. We offer those opportunities. If you want to grow your negotiation skill or your managerial skills, you can take a class. Metadata will pay for it and give you the experience to sharpen some of those skills. So if you're willing to work hard, but do impactful work in a good environment that really pushes you for growth, and yes, it's going to be tough at times, but that's how growth looks like, then Metadata aspires to be the best environment for you to hypergrowth your career. And we have many cases and evidence that can happen within the company. And so that's what we offer employees and new folks who want to join on top of the usual benefits of joining a startups.
Gil, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. Really appreciate you sharing the origin story behind Metadata, your own background, and then how you guys are continuing to use AI to automate a lot of interesting campaigns. And with the growth you expect to see, it sounds like it could be an excellent place for people to work and further their skills. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Metadata the best of luck in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And we welcome people from all around the world, all backgrounds, all characters, whoever you are. If you're interested, please let us know.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.